Welcome to the Wastes. This is Grimm Grinner on all channels. Well, Wastelanders, I'm still kind of fried after that last broadcast. I haven't been sleeping too well and still feel like I can hear that ticking. I sincerely hope that whoever the judge is hasn't been able to collect any more victims. And if you can hear me out there, Judge, let me make this very clear. If I find you, I'm making sure you're flatlined and that anything to do with you is wiped completely from the face of the wastes. Now that that's out of the way, I do have some better news to report. After the last broadcast, I took some time to try and find some more frequencies and try and get a heading before getting on track to Burblack. And while I picked up the usual, long dead distress static and corporate feeds still trying to proclaim my death, I did hear something that made my heart swell. Music. It was garbled at first, but I was able to patch in at a nearby tower that we got up and running and heard some awesome heavy rock music. And that gave us a heading towards a place known as the Domino Club. Now, for the older Wastelanders who may remember that name from the old world, it's exactly what you remember. And for anyone out there who may have been too young to know what the hell the Domino Club was or is, I'm about to drop some history on you. The Domino Club was probably the last real rock and roll club in the old world. Back before the virus hit and walls started going up, the forces that would become the corporations were already hard at work silencing voices that spoke up in what they deemed rebellious ways. Which included rock music. In the areas close to what is now the GAT, clubs like this started shutting down to be replaced with buildings that the corporations and their creeps now reside in. This meant that just finding somewhere to go and rock out was difficult, and usually meant having to travel a fair distance. Luckily, some of the smaller communities were looked over, and places like the Domino Club were able to survive. I still remember going out of my way to get friends to drive out there and see shows before everything went to hell. I saw some really amazing acts. Mag Gear, Samurai, The Winners. It was such a sweet venue. Great acoustics, super complex lighting rig, and just the perfect stage to crowd surf off of. I heard that it was still up and running in the early years of the Waste, but never had a chance to go and check. But hearing the broadcast supposedly coming from there and hinting at a big event coming was definitely a push to head that way. I mean, I almost hesitated, thinking it was a trap, some raiders or even the judge. Turns out for once, it was exactly what they were broadcasting. A badass rock show with the volume turned to 13. Bands playing were new rockers from out and around the wastes, but they were playing some classics that made me feel like a rebellious young teen again, thrashing about in a mosh pit. Some insanely good times, and a much-needed release after the events of the past while. I mean, unfortunately, we're still pretty off track from the route to Burblack, but I was able to chat with the bartender at the club, and they made mention that it's not too difficult to get back en route there. Apparently, different patrol squads from the settlements stop by to unwind on their way to other camps and outposts. Hopefully we can run into one of those groups safely and get a better idea of what we're in for once we get to Burblack. I also heard that a few clusters of brightly dressed wastelanders have been tearing through the old California deserts, taking on the corporations in their area. Not inspired by my broadcast, since they'd be out of range, but it's definitely something I like hearing. So from one rebel to another, keep fighting and keep running. We're close enough to another outpost that I was trying to mention in a previous broadcast, the Vineyard. Apparently they've found a way to make proper alcohol, as opposed to the questionable beverages that are usually found out in the wastes, with their specialty being wine. So I'm certainly intrigued, and I'm looking forward to checking that out and learning the story about this place. For now, we've got to fuel up and hit the road, since it sounds like there's been reports of some corporate vehicles in the area. This has been Grimm Grinner on all channels. See you in the wastes.
Alpha Squad has been found. All members deceased.
Welcome to The Wastes is a Wasteland podcast brought to you by Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson. Feel free to follow me on all social media and make sure to subscribe to hear more new episodes as they release. If you like what I do here and want to get some cool buttons or an enamel pin, check me out on Buy Me a Coffee. Donations there go towards being able to produce the best content I can make, and I offer some pretty fun perks as well. For more information and all the links, check out linktr.ee/welcometothewastes. See you in the wastes.